Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Milen and I'm a personal stylist, and today we're talking about the body type called dramatic classic. Now, I always want to remind people when I talk about body types, this does not equate a style. It equates to how clothing fits onto your body structure, the flesh on your body, your height, the width on your body, all of those things. And it's really just to ensure that your clothing choices are in harmony, they match the structure of your body. That is it. Let's dive right in. So you have this body type if you are of moderate height or a little bit taller, but you don't look super tall or super short. It's just moderate, even if the number of your height is taller. You can gain the look of muscles pretty easily, and that just means if you started to work out, the flesh on your body is a bit more of that yang and has a bit more musculature. So if you were to work out, it does show quicker, but not in any extreme. Not anything like the naturals or a few other body types. It is in a moderate sense. Your shoulders are tapered, not too sharp and not too sloped. Everything is moderate essentially, but with dramatic classics, there's just this little teeny tiny undercurrent of yang. And it can appear in maybe your shoulders, it could appear in your face structure, it could appear in that musculature I talked about, but it's a very subtle and just like a dash of yang. For women, your waist is smaller than your shoulders and your hips. So there's it's not an hourglass shape, it isn't. That is not it. But you do have a slight indent in your waist area. But it's not as boxy as a dramatic or flamboyant gamine. It is there, and your hips are not as angular as the flamboyant naturals or the natural. When this body type is quite thin, they appear straighter though. They will start to appear a bit more narrow and a bit more on that dramatic side. And then when they gain weight, this body type goes into that classic pear shape. I apologize if my little doggy takes if he takes the screen, the focus might be off, and I'm sorry. When women gain weight, yeah, they'll have that pear shape. Their hips just get wider. This top part does not get as much weight. So if you are someone that when you gain weight, you're pretty moderate all over, and you get that extreme pear shape when you do gain weight, that's a really good indication that you're a dramatic classic. When men gain weight, it will be more in the center part, the lower part of their belly. They become a bit more squarish because they don't have any pronounced V shape, or they're not incredibly narrow. They're very moderate. It just kind of becomes a little bit more moderate all around, and the fat kind of collects. That weight collects in the midsection. And when they gain weight, for men and women, their faces just become a little rounder. Typically, this body type will have a little bit more of a narrow or an angular face, but that is not always the case. So don't use that as a sure thing. And you don't need to have every single thing I listed on the list, but if your overall look matches this, you are not this body type if you appear extremely petite, have very delicate bones or bone structure, if you're extremely soft and luscious and the flesh on your skin is always lends towards soft no matter your weight, if you're incredibly sharp everywhere and very narrow, then no. And as a male or female, but as a male more likely, you will not have that extreme V-top shape, and women, same thing, your shoulders are not going to be extremely wide. Okay, so for your overall shape and look to your outfits, look for things that are tailored cuts, that are good quality. Now, What does that mean? That just means typically a good quality material is a little bit heavier looking. Like it won't drape as much, but the drapery, if it were like silk, for example, a good quality silk falls differently than fake silk or like synthetic silks. So it's more about the structure of it. It usually keeps its structure fairly well, and there's just some heaviness to it. So I'm wearing, for example, for today, a cashmere vest top. And this has a bit more shape. It feels just thicker and more luscious. And that tends to look really good on moderate body types because your body is very perfectly balanced between a structure and just like an ever so slight softness that has that elegance to it. And so that's why those kinds of fabrics look really good on this shape. You can really get away with good quality wool, good quality cashmere, wools. I already said wool. Silks, and you do want to find things that have a little bit more structure in them, but not anything too extreme like a pure dramatic. You also want to aim for just like a little bit of breathing room between you and clothing, so nothing too extremely tight. And as I was saying earlier, with the thicker fabric that good quality fabrics have, they almost naturally do this where there's just a little bit of room between your flesh, like your body, and the material, and it's not skin tight. Cheaper materials will be thinner, and therefore they cling more to the body structure, and that's going to look very cheap on a dramatic classic. So keeping that in mind to kind of keep a little bit of distance and that breathability in your clothes, in your overall outfit. You can do some waist definition, but it's not waist emphasis the way, you know, a curvy or a soft body type's gonna need. It's more put together. So tucking in your shirt for men and women in every outfit kind of keeps that structure, that put togetherness, that crispness that this body type looks really good in. If you compare it to a dramatic, like a pure dramatic, they can get away with more oversized and just long lines because you don't have this super length as a dominant feature of yours. You want to keep everything proportional, and to do that you kind of create boxes. However, it's not breaking up a line in any way. It's just honoring your proportions in a very specific way. So if you're going to tuck in your shirt into every pant you wear, skirt, you want to keep and always ensure that your proportions are equal. And that looks so good on dramatic classics. The more you focus on your proportions and honor those and keep them always in balance, you're honoring the fact that your body shape is a balancing act. In other words, nothing too flowy, unconstructed, and nothing too extremely sharp and stiff. Balance. Tops. This body type looks in turtlenecks. Turtlenecks, embrace them. There's a few body types that look so good in turtlenecks. Dramatics is one, now dramatic classic. They look superb, they look classy, they just look, it's fitting those lines. You've got that length, the sharpness of the top of the turtleneck, and a little bit of that narrowness that looks good on a dramatic classic because they can have a bit of that dramatic angularity in their shoulders. The same thing goes for V-necks because you do want to have some of those sharp dramatic elements to your clothing, but nothing crazy. Don't go crazy now, all in moderation. So that V, same thing, honoring that angularity, a little bit of that yang up top. Maybe that yang is in your face, so it's almost like V, 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 V. You're honoring all of that intense angularity. And the more you honor it, the more nothing becomes too intense. That goes with every body type, by the way. The reason I always talk about honoring the thing is because we often try to diminish it, and by trying to diminish it and hide it, you're making a big sign to say, look at it, I'm making it worse. This way, you're honoring it, and then you find yourself loving that part of you. And that's what's so beautiful about this system. This is the exact same thing for square necklines. Tailored blouses that are not too stiff and not too flowy, silky, luscious. And again, they look high quality for all of these things. Just assume it's all high quality. A waistcoat or those like vest tops, kind of like what I'm wearing today. If you do have angularity on the top, like in your shoulders or in your face, a slight asymmetrical top would look incredible. I would, though, aim for the overall outfit, though, to be pretty symmetrical because you're a symmetrical being. But just a spice of asymmetry looks very cool. The collars on button-ups or, you know, any kind of shirt that you're wearing, you want to aim for something not overly sharp, but you do want a little bit of stiffness there and nothing too soft, too circular. So a nice balance, crisp, not over the top, not underwhelming, or not too unconstructed and loose. For sweaters, you want a lightweight or like a thinner knit and something that's a little bit more narrow to the body. This does not need to be skin tight. Dramatic Classics looks so good in those kind of long cardigans. Not too long because you're not a true dramatic. You want to honor a little bit of that moderate fun balance, so probably to the knee and a little bit longer is nice. You can go mid thigh as well, and a nice like wrapped cardigan would look great, or just like a straight one, as long as you've tucked in whatever you're wearing underneath, just to have that waist definition, not emphasis. That looks just put together. It just do not lose your shape though. Just keep that in mind with the cardigan. Nothing like oversized, large, like just a blanket. It would look so bad on a Dramatic Classic. Bottoms, you look incredible in kind of those like darker, almost dressed up jeans because they have a little bit more structure to them. So nothing with like holes and stuff, unless your essence really leans into something like that, then of course. But just overall, you're gonna look really good in straight, slight flare. Same with the height of your waist pant. Like, don't go high-waisted up to the ladies. That's not gonna look cool because you've thrown off your proportions all of a sudden. And although someone like a Dramatic who has really long legs, that looks cool, you're all moderate. So you want to reflect that in your outfit and with your pants. So a good measurement I find with Dramatic Classics is just under like about an inch underneath your belly button is a good measurement. But again, you want to play with that. Like, you'll find your sweet spot. Anything too high, I find, can kind of just throw it off. All of a sudden you have this tiny torso and then long legs, and that's not what your body type actually is. So keep it proportional. You'll thank me. On that note, you don't want anything too cropped. You can do a slight crop, that's cute, but nothing too cropped or too long. Like, you don't want the pants that go down to the floor, because again, that'll make your legs look too long, and then a cropped might make your legs super short, and you don't want either of those extremes because your body's not either of those extremes. You want tailored and kind of more crisp pants. Like, you want something that keeps its structure. The difference between this and a Dramatic is that you don't want oversized. You don't want anything too large and in charge. You just want it very moderate, but with a bit of that structure, that tailored, it fits you. For shorts, you want them tailored and crisp and nothing, again, too extreme, nothing too short and nothing too long. So linen might even be a little bit too soft for a Dramatic Classic, but a good quality linen that holds its shape and doesn't get all wrinkly, that'll look good. But good cottons and good, kind of like those suit shorts, they'll look really good. You could definitely do a jean short, but keep it structured. So nothing frayed or holes or too short. Skirts should be long, but kind of a good mid-length is nice, like right at the calf is beautiful on dramatic classics. Because again, you're moderate. I'll say it 1,000 times just so that it gets into your head. But you want to keep them straight and narrow, nothing too flouncy. You can though do a little bit, but keeping it balanced, I find, is key. If it has, you know, high quality, that heaviness that I was talking about, that kind of brings down that flowiness, and that could look actually really good. If you want to do like a monochromatic look with that looks really nice. But you can get away with color blocking because you are a dramatic as well as a classic. And so that would look really nice, and it kind of balances out this huge flow. Keep it not too incredibly flowy, and then maybe like a crisp, really good quality t-shirt on top. Like just balance, 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 balance. A slit in a midi skirt would look so good on you. I would try to keep it either centered, or if your top part of your outfit is very symmetrical, then you can do an asymmetrical slit. And yeah, again, absolutely nothing too flowy, too unconstructed, or frilly. Dresses, you do want some symmetrical fits. However, you can add that ever so slight asymmetrical flair to it. Like you could have a little slit. However, if it's a symmetrical dress, the slit's gonna be in the middle, and that looks incredible. You could have a slight, you know, asymmetrical top part of it, but overall, you do look incredible in symmetrical dresses. Those button-up dresses, in other words, a shirt dress, because it keeps it narrow, it keeps it straight and long, but not too long. You want to keep it at that mid-calf, maybe at the knee. That's a good length for dramatic classics, that midi. And maybe with like a little belt. Not extreme waist emphasis, because it's not waist emphasis, just defined waist, nothing too unconstructed or too boxy like a true dramatic. I find that moderate sized straps are best on dramatic classics, so nothing too thin. Sometimes that can throw it off. Depending on how you do it, you can experiment with this with your own personal dramatic classic body type, but I find just like a little bit more of that moderate, some girth to it, does look a bit more balanced on a dramatic classic, because anything too dainty and then too heavy are again throwing you into those extremes that doesn't always look the most balanced, the most harmonious for your body type. You can do some, emphasis on some, shoulder detailing, just like a little maybe cap, not shoulder pads, and nothing too sharp or intense. You do want to keep it still moderate, but a little honoring to that shoulder is honoring that angularity that you may have. And same as the skirts, nothing too flowy, unconstructed, and same thing as your tops, like nothing too really tight and nothing too really loose. Say it with me, balance. Balance. Your outerwear, so coats, you want to keep them, again, that nice little midi length looks incredible. You can even get away with like a slightly longer coat for men and women, of course. Like a really good wool coat on a dramatic classic is incredible. If you're a dramatic classic but you don't have dramatic or classic essence, just keep the structure in mind. He might put me out of focus. Coats with like a little bit of shoulder detailing, like a slight sharpness here, nothing extreme, but a little bit looks incredible. And you want to kind of keep it more on the narrow side. That looks incredible on dramatic classics. You can do some cropped jackets, just keep it a little bit less like extremely petite and nothing too dainty. You want to have some heft to it, some good quality to it. So something even maybe not extremely cropped, but something right at the top of your hip bones for women, men, kind of same thing. And you want to ensure that that structure is still there, just nothing oversized and nothing too tight. And lastly, like a trench coat, and that, depending on your essence, like the type of fabric you do use or the vibe you're getting, you can get away with, but overall, like a good classic trench coat looks really good on a dramatic classic. And because they have a tie, that's that waist definition. If you can find that in any of the coats that I just described, then yeah. Lastly, accessories, and I'm gonna go through these incredibly briefly because I wanna shy away from accessories with body types. They lend themselves really well towards your essence, so I'll talk about that in other videos. But very quickly, for a dramatic classic, you want sharp and narrow shoes. So a good pointy shoe looks incredible, nothing too rounded or too clunky either, like chunky, clunky, no. You want structured and moderate sized bags, so nothing again in the extremes. Moderate sized jewelry, so nothing too delicate or dainty and nothing chunky and aggressive. Unless, like I said, your essences fall in any, of those extremes. You can absolutely handle it, so take this with a grain of salt. And lastly, minimal detailed accessories. So like a watch that's all one color looks really nice, and just like a classic standard watch, so nothing too blingy, too over the top. And then your belt, like two-toned, that would look really cool. A scarf that's maybe two colors like this or just one solid color, that would look incredible. Because I mentioned the color blocking, I didn't go into full detail about it because this really kind of falls into your color analysis. And essentially this body type does not need all monochromatic and it doesn't need color blocking. So you can play around with those two things. If your essences look really good in color blocking and your coloring is good for that, like looks incredible in maybe high contrast colors, go for that. And if your essence is a little bit more muted or dramatic or something that looks really good in a monochromatic style, then you can also pull that off. And that's sort of the beauty of a dramatic classic, because they're balanced, they can kind of go into one or the other, and your essences will drive that. And that's it. That is the dramatic classics. I just want to make a quick note. There is the just classic body type. I don't include that one because it is incredibly rare to be 100% balanced. You'll either lean a little bit more angular or a little softer. So I keep that one out. To each their own. I know other stylists may type people as classic. I don't. So I will not be talking about that. So just to let you know. If you have any questions or concerns or anything, just drop them in the comments below. If this is your body type, I love hearing about it. I love knowing who is what. Tell me about it. And all my information is also down below if you want to work with me. And I hope you all have a beautiful and stylish day.